Here are some discussions to help you with your strategy section, the final section you're working on for your business plans. We talked about SWOT analysis back in chapter 1, first week of class, so I brought these slides back in to remind you of those topics. When we do a SWOT analysis, that's an acronym that stands for Strengths, Weaknesses, Opportunities, and Threats. The other term for this is called an environmental analysis. You may have done this in other classes for other contexts. In this case, we're talking specifically about your business or your business idea. The key thing to remember about strengths and weaknesses is that they are internally focused. They are things that you can control. Whereas opportunities and threats are things that are external. You just need to react to a threat and take advantage of opportunities. They are things you cannot necessarily control. If you come up with an attribute and you're in doubt as to whether it's a strength or a weakness or an opportunity or a threat, consider whether or not you have any ability to impact that item. Here are some examples of strengths and weaknesses. Again, these are internal attributes. For most of us in this class, a weakness could be that we are new to running a small business. Opportunities and threats have to do with things that are happening around you. For example, demographics may present an opportunity to you because your market is growing. If you're, for example, targeting the baby boomer market, if you're targeting children, your market is shrinking. So that's an external factor that you cannot control, but will have a huge impact on your business. So that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, your environmental analysis. The final section of your strategy section has to do with time management, and the text uses a tool called a PERT chart, which is a very useful tool, very interesting. It's not something I'm asking you to create. I'm instead asking you to specify in your business plan specific business objectives, and I'm asking you to do this so that you have a plan of action after you leave this class. You have specific things you're attempting to achieve. I use a tool that's been around for many years to help identify really good objectives, and that is using the acronym SMART, so that each objective that you put in your plan should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic or relevant, and time driven, meaning there's a specific time frame by which you achieve it, so you can measure all of these things. So here are some examples. This is from an online bplans.com business plan. We analyzed these in my on-campus class and determined that we think it's a little bit aggressive to double sales in 3 months, which is what, if you read numbers 1 and 2, is suggested here. However, these two goals are very good in terms of how they are written because there's a specific target, there's a specific way to measure it, and that's what you're looking for in your goals. Number 3 is a little bit harder to measure. We're not quite sure how you measure that. We also understand from an industry perspective that the 90% return rate is very high, so that may be difficult for a brand new business to achieve. We're not sure how you would measure becoming an established community spa destination, so we want that goal to be written a little bit better. And then of course here's a very specific goal, and while it's aggressive, it's a well-written goal. Here are some other examples, and for your plan, minimally I'm going to give you 4 or 5 goals that you could consider writing in. You're going to need to trademark your business name or your product name, acquire the domain for your business name, file for a business license in your primary city of where you're doing business, and potentially launch a website. Those are very specific goals. When you write your goals, I recommend that you write them using relative terms like 1 month before launch or a specific quarter. One of the benefits of the way these are written is it's talking about the 3rd month after opening. So the reason you would want to keep those terms, the time frames, to be relative is so that as things change for you, maybe you take this plan and you put it aside. When you pick it back up, if you've written these objectives using relative time frames, then you'll be able to start right away. And I'm saying to use those time frames rather than a specific month, February 2011, for example. As always, please contact me if you have any questions about these elements of your strategy section, which is due in a week. Thank you.